Fire Emblem Engage, Axe tier list. Let's jump into it. Okay, this is a tier list. We're going to be rating the axes in the game. This is for Maddening mode. I'm going to be going off of base game. I'll factor in DLC or at least mention it for certain axes. Okay, so the Brave Axe. This is a pretty solid weapon. Certain units can one round with this without quadding, which is interesting. Very few units can quad with it. It does have high weight. It does have pretty good might. I would say it's like A tier. Panette can specifically one round on player phase with this, but she can't one round on enemy phase with it. Otherwise, I'd put it in S tier. It's not a good enemy phase weapon, but it is a good player phase weapon. Certain units can take advantage of it. When upgraded, you can one round with it somewhat consistently. And most axe users have enough enough build to deal with its weight if they have high speed to double. So there's some potential there. Okay, the next one, Fragarach. All right. So this is one of the donation weapons. I think it's Brodia. So you have to hit like high donation level. Going on the stats. So first of all, it's S rank, which is already bad. 19 might, 16 weight. It's not bad, but being able to get this, let's Google this. Pretty sure it's Brodia, right? It seems like a Brodian thing. Let's see. Oh, it's Psalm. Okay, never mind. It's Psalm. All right, so you have to get Psalm. So Psalm level 5, you'll need a total of 50k. Yeah, you need a lot to donate here. I don't think that's worth it at all. This is very expensive. The stats on it are okay, actually, but because it's so hard to get, I'd say it's just good. If you can unlock it somehow, whether it's grinding gold in some way or another through like Anna's passive or just saving up a lot of money, it's not bad. 19 might, 16 weight. It's pretty decent. You could reasonably upgrade this and use it as a mainline weapon. If you can get it, I would say it's A tier, maybe S tier, depending on the unit and the build. But I would say it's just good otherwise. It's just too hard to get. That's the real issue of the availability on it. So you're not going to be able to reasonably run this in a playthrough. All right, Ukon Vasara. This is a fantastic axe in 3 houses, but in this game, it's just okay. 38 might, 24 weight. You get it during chapter 24. I would say it's like here. It's like a combat art. It's the wrong game. It's it's like an emblem ability thing. Like when you're using an engage ability, you could use this for huge damage. You could also enemy phase with this to some degree. It is S rank though, so a lot of things can't even use it. So it's not as available as some other great weapons for enemy phasing, but it does have huge damage and also huge weight, and you get it very late. So at best, it's a B tier. It's probably really honestly a C tier. All right, next we have the hammer. So the hammer is interesting. It's kind of like Armor Slayer. I mean, it's Armor Slayer, but it's really heavy. I would say it's maybe high B tier. I think it's much worse than Armor Slayer because of its weight. It's also inaccurate, so it has 2 things going against it. It's weight and it's inaccurate. It's pretty difficult for most units to double with this thing, and usually if you want to kill enemy armor, you have to double it. So the few points of weight, or the few points of might it has over Armor Slayer isn't going to be pushing it into one-shot ranges. So it's kind of like a bad Armor Slayer in a lot of ways. It's less accurate, it's heavier, and it's on axes. And axes tend to not be the best thing. I mean, maybe on a warrior you could kind of run this, but I'd rather have an Armor Slayer, 11 sword, or a tome user focus, or even like a rapier or something. Something that can double consistently. It's okay. It's just decent. Poleaxe. So Poleaxe I would say is similar. It's like decent. The problem with Poleaxe, it's quite heavy and it's not that accurate. And the might is not that high. So I'm actually going to pull up Rider's Bane really quick, because I'm pretty sure it's not even better than Rider's Bane. It's literally objectively worse than Rider's Bane. So here are the stats on Poleaxe. You have 8 might, 60 hit, 14 weight. And then Rider's Bane is 8 might, 70 hit, 13 weight. So it's literally objectively worse than Rider's Bane statistically. And it's on axes, so it has less accuracy. It doesn't even have more damage. So it's okay. It's not strong. It's not as good as Rider's Bane, but it's serviceable if you want to target horse weakness. It's cheap to upgrade. It's not horrible. Killer Axe, I would say, is S tier. Killer Axe is definitely S tier. Why is it S tier? You can enemy phase, specifically for Panette enemy phasing and other units who can enemy phase on this. This is a pretty high might weapon for a crit build, for a crit weapon. So you're looking at 30 base crit with 11 might and 12 weight. It's pretty lightweight. A lot of just testing into warrior, just second sealing into warrior or advancing into warrior, your build should be like 10 to 13. So baseline warriors can double with this if they're fast enough. You can enemy phase with this on multiple units, especially Panette. It can player phase and enemy phase very well. You can become a crit god pretty easily with this on a lot of different units, and it's generally one of the better axes in the game. It also has the same accuracy as the steel axe, which is 65, so it's a little bit more accurate than some of these things, but it still has some accuracy issues. But if you get the dex up, or you get accuracy engraving, that also boosts crit, you can easily run this, and it's pretty effective. Hand axe. Hand axe, I think, is here. I don't even think it's A tier. It's too heavy. So if you want to double with this thing, well, I guess I can put it in low A. I don't know. I feel like it's like a bad javelin. I would rather have a javelin because it's more accurate. And I think the damage it's like 1 more damage than a javelin, but it's much more weight. So I guess it's kind of like the A tier axe thing for javelining. So for enemy phasing, you could hand axe. I mean, I guess you could reasonably double if you're fast enough, but doubling on axes is generally harder due to class limitation, what speed you get from it, unit speed. Units that are good on axe classes tend to not be fast, but you can put fast units on axe classes. So I would say, I guess it's A tier. I want to put it in B. It's not as good as javelin. It doesn't have as good of stats. Pretty sure javelin is what? 80 hit. Yeah, it's much better. And javelin also has much less weight. Javelin is 9 weight. This thing is 12, so pretty heavy. It's 1 more point of damage than javelin and 10 less hit. And end game is really when you want things like this. But early to mid game, maybe some of the late game, it's decent. I do think it's outclassed by another axe, but I'll get into that. I guess low A tier is fine for just enemy phasing without going for crits. Okay. Iron Axe, I believe. Yeah, Iron Axe. Iron Axe it's okay. It's not bad. It has okay accuracy. 80 hit is fine. 9 might is okay. 10 weight is kind of bad, but for axes, it's fine. It's something you use for a few chapters early game and then probably drop. Iron Great Axe. So this one does have some might on it. 18 might. This is an early game thing. I would say you could use this early game for a chapter or two, and then you should probably switch, upgrade it. But it's not horrible. It's just not exactly... It's not going to help you that much. It's going to be marginally better than other options. You'll be dealing a few extra points of damage by, initiating with it or enemy phasing. So it's not too crazy. The Well Axe. So this thing does have some crits. Comparing it to Killer Axe, it has less. It has 5 more hits, 1 less damage. It has 10 less crit, and it has the same weight. I would say this is slightly worse Killer Axe in general. Now the upgrades, this upgrades for cheap. This upgrades for a lot of silver. So it's not bad, but this is just better. And you can get more of these, so there's really no reason to run this at all aside from how it looks, which is kind of cool. So I would say this is maybe low A tier. It's going to let me put it there. Let's do this. There we go. All right, low A tier, high B tier. The Lolly Chop. This is actually a TF2 item, which is kind of funny. I don't know that this is worth using at all. Seems like it's kind of meme territory. Yeah, it's definitely a meme, which is why. You can use it if you want to joke around, but it's not good. All right, the Fire Emblem Heroes Axe. This thing is up there. So unlike the killer axe, which requires a specific build, this can actually be used on non-axe units that are fast, like units that are like, sword axe or lance axe wyvern or hybrids, or like hero with an axe. This can be run on a lot of things, and it has 14 base damage and 10 weight and 75 hit. And it also has a passive that if you have 40% HP or less, you get +1 move. So this is pretty interesting. Like the passive is crazy, but really the damage and the weight ratio are nuts. And the fact that it loses weight on upgrade and you can get it to like +3, which I think puts it at either 9 or 8 weight. So pretty much anyone can wield it, and it has really good base damage and pretty good accuracy. It's basically like the killer axe, but without the condition of needing to run a crit build. And you can run it generically in just one round and double with it. So kind of has the edge here. It has more versatility. Silver axe. This I would say is like A tier. It's definitely not S tier. It's too heavy. 15 weight. I mean, it's hard to say that axes are S tier. I guess if you run warriors, but if you want to run this on like a wyvern, very few wyverns can wield this without speed penalty, and you need to do some heavy build or speed fixing to compensate for it. And on maddening mode, especially late game, if you're compensating for weapon weight, you're probably not doubling everything. You're probably doubling, significantly fewer enemies. So for that reason, I think it's just like good. It's not like overpowered. It's just like a solid option that has good weight, good damage, and in some cases can double, but on average won't be. So it's just a decent weapon, has decent stats. Silver great axe. So this thing, 32 might, 17 weight. The weight doesn't matter as much. If you're getting, like, this is the type of weapon where if you're on an axe class, it's A rank, so you're going to be on an axe class. You're either getting doubled or you're not, and your weight is going to be, your build is going to be pretty high anyways, so the weight doesn't really matter. So the 32 damage, this could be good. I'll put it like low or like here, like mid A tier. This could be good for enemy phasing, for initiating, for hitting really hard, but you're going to be taking damage unless you're hitting a broken foe. So, for example, one thing you could do with this is have someone break something or fracture. So have like a staff bot fracture and then whack with this on warrior, and you get the +50% bonus damage. Then you could potentially just, go to one-shot city where you just one-shot things with this. So there is some potential in combo there, but fracture is kind of expensive to run if you're using it constantly and you're buying fracture staffs. Both are correct. I Googled it because I know people are so particular about pronunciation. Googled it. All right. It's decent. Good for enemy phasing. There's some combo ability with certain things with like Merciless and stuff like that. But it's definitely not S tier. It's, a lot of the great weapons, they can kind of enemy phase, but they can't enemy phase at 2 range. And they can kind of player phase, but they can't player phase like threats, because they take too much damage up front in order to get their hit off. And in some cases, they get doubled before they get their hit off, which feels stupid. So, like, if I want to go one round or even one shot an enemy mage, and I can just poke it with a lance and kill it, I would rather do that than let it double me first for full damage and then I kill it. That just seems more. It's clearly there's some setup. There's no way it's S tier in my opinion. Okay. Compact axe. This is like okay for early game if you want to increase the accuracy of some of your axe users to make them more consistent. But outside of that, it's pretty dumb. There's no point. Steel axe. Steel axe has decent bases. It's kind of like similar to silver. It's pretty heavy. I mean, 12 weight isn't horrible, and you can get it down to 11 if you +3 it. To upgrade it. And like when I've run steel axe on axe units, like units that the game gives you, their axe units, like aside from Panette, they don't really one-shot things and they don't double. So it's kind of like you kind of just want to throw out weight and speed and just go for huge hits. Now, if you take a unit who's fast and make them an axe unit, you could double with it. So if you took like, I don't know, like Chloe or something, or Alir, and made them like a warrior, you could reasonably double with steel and silver axe, and maybe it's S tier, but arguably the best axe classes aren't wyvern. They're like warrior or I'm sorry. Yeah, warrior, and maybe hero, using like this. or Steel Axe. So like Steel Axe could be used on a hero with decent build, and that could be okay. But if you were trying to run Wyvern, like Lear and Chloe don't have high build, so you're not going to be able to double that as consistently with axes as you would with swords or lances. And also, sword and lance power compensate for the lack of raw damage late game and turn any unit that is just fast into an insanely hitting, super unit. So these are like strong options, but they're definitely not the best thing available for sure. Okay, and then we have Steel Great Axe. So a little bit, 26 might, 14 weight. So if you have a high enough speed, you won't be getting doubled when initiating or when getting attacked. I would say this is like here. You basically just want the silver one, the silver Great Axe if you're going to be Great Axing, but it's not a bad option. It's like viable. It can kind of work to some degree, but you're going to want to upgrade immediately into silver as early as possible if that's the plan, right? And you're probably going to want an accuracy engraving as well. Tomahawk. I think Tomahawk is actually low S tier. It has, so on axe units, especially ones that are fast, it can double on enemy phase for big might, and it can also straight up one round a lot of things if you can double. Alternatively, if you can't double, you can still enemy phase for big damage, and it's just a solid weapon overall. It's double the might of hand axe for only 4 more weight, which really isn't that bad considering if you're an axe user, you're going to have high build anyways. So if you have high speed as well, you can double with this thing, and unlike the spear, which kind of is terrible, this is actually a good weapon. And you can even use this as a main weapon. Like you can just have like a tank that just uses a tomahawk and just enemy phases, and then you're getting that 2 range enemy phase, those mage kills and archer damage and archer kills on enemy phase, and it's pretty good. So I would say these are the best so far. And then of course we have the Hurricane Axe. Now this one's kind of weird because there's no bolt axe in this game, so there's just the Hurricane Axe. So it smashes, so it doesn't double, can't follow up. You can't initiate without getting hit first, so you need to either break the foe or tank the foe when initiating. But it can nuke down flyers, and it's a magical axe. It's like an enemy phase thing. I would say it's like strong. It's like here. It's like comparable to this, maybe a little bit worse than this on average. If you have a magic unit that uses this, so for example, some people run this on Anna on Warrior, so like Anna with this plus like a Radiant Bow, that can be an interesting build for her. Arguably, you're not playing into her strengths completely, and Levin's sword is probably her best build with sword power, but you could use this and it would be decent. You would have enemy phase, anti-flying or initiating with anti-flying, and Anna's fast enough that she shouldn't be getting doubled when attacking because she has high enough speed. However, her build is kind of suspect in this situation. But on Warrior, she gets higher base build plus the 5% extra build growth, putting her at 10% total build growth rate. That's like the only really big use case. You could take someone like Pandreo and leverage his big build to go for this. It's a 15 weight weapon. So Pandreo could be like a Warrior, for example, and kind of do okay on this. Griffin Knight would be interesting. Griffin Knight on this, on like Anna, could be interesting, or Pandreo, because Griffin Knight gives magic growth, so you could be like an Axe Griffin. I think those are like the main things you would do this on. Some kind of like Axe Griffin Anna or Axe Griffin Pandreo. Anna for the raw damage, Pandreo for the better build and the better build growth. He has like 15% base build plus high build, so Pandreo could reasonably do something like this. It's very situational, and you probably don't need it. You're probably better off just using like Excalibur, but it's there, and you can use it. And because it's on axes, and what classes it's on, I would say it's decent. It's like strong. So here's my axe tier list. Some of these, I think these are the obvious S tiers. I think these are really solid options. These are just these are like borderline overpowered. These are really solid options. These are situationally useful. These are okay. This is just bad. These are only okay for like early game for like 3 chapters, and then you just stop using them. So arguably they could be in bad. So if you want to move them up or down, I don't really care because you don't use them for long anyways. And then these are nice utilities, and then some enemy phase stuff. This is, you have 2 chapters to use this, so hard to say how good it is. And this could move down, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. It's my axe tier list. Definitely like and subscribe. Feel free to drop a comment as to where you think the axes place, if anything should move up or down, and why, and I'll see you in the next one.